Good afternoon, and welcome to the Prince George's Community Federal Credit Union 2017 Lunch and Learn series. Today's presentation is brought to you in partnership with Coffee, a nationwide financial coaching and education center focusing on improving the financial health of individuals. As the premier credit union of Prince George's County, they have joined with Coffee to expand their mission of providing quality financial education to their community and lending insight into credit management, home ownership, and money management. Prince George's Community Federal Credit Union is a full-service financial institution serving anyone who lives, works, or worships in the Prince George's County, Maryland. This year they are celebrating 50 years in business and are one of the county's best-kept secrets with competitive loan and savings rates as well as discounts to national retailers. They currently serve over 16,000 members in the area and welcome you to come and experience the benefits of membership as well. Later on in the presentation, I will display their contact information and answer any specific questions you may have concerning your financial needs. Please note that today's webinar is live and all phone lines have been muted. If you have questions, please feel free to type it into the question field on the right-hand side of your menu bar. All questions are private and will be addressed at the end of our discussion. We will be offering a free 60-minute financial coaching session with the completion of 3 webinars. More information will be given at the end of today's presentation. And lastly, a recording of today's session will be available within 2 days. Details will be sent to your email following the presentation. And with that being said, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Charmaine Williams, and I will be your presenter today. I'm going to go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to discuss is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, or the FDCPA. The FDCPA was enacted to protect consumers from abusive, deceptive, and unfair treatment by debt collectors. The Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, monitors and enforces compliance of the FDCPA. The FTC does not intervene in individual disputes. So if you are a victim of FDCPA violations, you should file a complaint with your state attorney general or a local consumer protection agency. Now I'm going to discuss dealing with debt collectors. Now when you're dealing with your debt collectors, written communication works to your advantage because you have a record of everything that they say. There are no laws that require you to speak to debt collectors on the phone. You can also stop them from calling you entirely with what's known as a cease and desist letter. You want to get all information in writing. Within 5 days of contacting you, a collector must send you a written notice telling you the amount of money you owe, the name of the creditor, and what action to take if you believe you don't owe that money, according to the Debt Collection Act. Now, before engaging in conversation with a debt collector, ask him or her to send you the information in writing. If you don't believe you owe the money, dispute the debt in writing. If you send the collection agency a letter within 30 days of receiving the written notice stating that you do not owe the money, a debt collector cannot contact you. So make sure you keep copies of any letters you send as part of a paper trail on your debt. Your response to the collector should always be sent by certified mail. Otherwise, they can deny ever receiving it. You also want to keep records of all phone calls and messages. Write down the day and time of every call, the agency's name, the amount you owe, and a summary of the conversation. And save any voicemails as well. Again, you want to keep a paper trail of everything, and that can be essential if the debt collector ever breaks the law. Keep your conversations short, stay focused, and calm. Do not let them intimidate you. Always stick to the facts and never tell them more than they need to know. Also, don't be afraid to negotiate. Times are tight, and debt collectors are looking for whatever payments they can get. There is a good chance you can work out a deal to pay less than the full amount. So if you are going to negotiate, start low, only offering 10 to 15% of what they say that you owe, then probably settle somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 50%. Be sure again to get the details of the deal sent to you in writing. Once you've gotten written confirmation of the agreement, you can send your payment. Be sure to use a cashier's check rather than a personal check. Do not, under any circumstances, provide the debt collectors with access to your bank account. Now, another negotiation strategy is to offer a debt collector a payment for deletion deal. This is where you agree to pay a debt collector the full amount, and the debt collector agrees to remove the collection account from your credit report. The debt collector would contact the credit bureaus directly to remove the debt. Now, according to the Federal Trade Commission, or the FTC, and the Boston-based National Consumer Law Center, this practice is not illegal, but it is frowned upon by credit reporting agencies. Remember, they're getting paid to report your information, so they're not going to like that. Many debt collectors may refuse to do it. If you're lucky enough to get one to agree for a pay for deletion, again, get it in writing in advance. A payment for deletion deal is one strategy for coping with an accurate bill that was lost or forgotten but is now in collection. Getting a collection account removed from your credit report should give a big boost to your credit rating. You also need to remember that the FDCPA gives the collectors some rights as well. A debt collection agency can renew collection activities if it provides you with proof of the debt, such as a copy of the bill that you owe. Okay? Remember that you have rights, and there are times that the debt collectors violate the law. So now some of the things that they cannot do. Debt collectors cannot call you before 8 a.m. or after 9 p.m. your local time. Call you at work if an employer forbids personal phone calls. They cannot have excessive phone calls to harass you. They can't tell a person other than you or your spouse or attorney about the debt that you owe. They can't threaten to take your property or garnish your wages. Your property or wages cannot be taken without a court order. They can't threaten to use violence or any other illegal means to harm you, your family, your reputation, or your property, and it's been known to happen in some cases. They are not allowed to use obscene language in communicating with you. They cannot intimidate you with criminal prosecution or imply that you have committed a criminal act. They also can't falsely claim to be an attorney, a representative from a credit bureau, or a member of law enforcement. So if any of them, on any occasion, do any of these things, again, you want to report these abuses to the state attorney general or your local consumer protection agency. Now we're going to discuss the Statute of Limitations. And this is how that works. Creditors and debt collectors have a limited time window in which to sue debtors for non-payment of credit card bills. That limit is set by a state's statute of limitations. Most states, the statute of limitations period on debts is between 3 and 10 years. Debts that have lingered longer than the statute allow are often referred to as time-barred debts. If a debt collector sues you to collect a time-barred debt, you can have the suit dismissed by letting the court or judge know that the debt indeed is time-barred beyond the statute of limitation. I know this is a lot of information to take in, so please remember that there are notes in the handout section on the right-hand side of your screen in your menu bar. So you could always click to download those. That way you'll have this information and you don't have to write everything down. Now what I'm going to talk about that you could do is if they violate the law. If a debt collector violates the FDCPA, you have several available remedies, things that you could do to protect yourself in the case that they do violate the law. Now, the first thing that you can do is sue the debt collector in state court. You may bring a lawsuit against the debt collector in state court. And in the lawsuit, you must prove that the debt collector violated the FDCPA. If you are successful, you may be able to collect $1,000 in statutory damages and possibly more if you have suffered harm from the violations. In these lawsuits, the consumer, which is you, is almost always represented by an attorney. Now remember, if you're going to state court, you're going to have to pay attorney fees. Maybe you can get the debt collectors, if you sue them and you win, to cover your attorney costs. Next is you can sue the creditor in small claims court. Small claims court may be a better option for those who do not want to hire an attorney or spend the time required for a full-blown state court lawsuit. Small claims court allows individuals to argue their case without an attorney and through an expedited process. These courts typically offer you, the consumer, one shortened hearing in order to argue the case to a judge. Now, the disadvantage of using small claims court is that small claims courts limits the amount of damages that you can get. So whereas in a state court, you can get anywhere from $1,000 and up, depending. If you were to go to small claims court, they'll limit the amount that you get, that you can receive in damages. The next thing that you can do is report the action to a government agency. So the Federal Trade Commission, or FTC, is charged with overseeing debt collector actions and ensuring that the FDCPA is not violated. Now, you can contact the FTC with FDCPA concerns, but they're not going to file the charges for you. If you want to report the action and have something happen, you need to contact the CFPB or your local Consumer Federal Protection Agency. And then the CFPB will take consumer complaints, passing on those complaints to the creditor, and then works with the consumer, which is you, and the creditor to find a solution to the problem. The next thing that you can do is report the action to the state attorney general. So in addition to violating the FDCPA, the debt collector may also be violating other state laws. So if they're violating that, more likely than not, they're doing other things as well. So you may want to contact the state attorney general's office in order to receive guidance on a possible FDCPA lawsuit and for any possible state law actions against the debt collector. Many of these offices also receive complaints against debt collectors. So if it gets enough complaints against one of them, it may prosecute on behalf of the state. So you may not have to do anything. They'll prosecute on behalf of the state, and if they win, you'll be entitled to damages, whatever money that they collect. Okay, so these are good. This is good information to know. And again, it's always good information to have. Education is key. So the next thing I want to say is educate yourself, okay? If you ever find yourself in a bad situation, be certain to educate yourself on the laws in your state. Garnishment, lawsuits, and property seizure are illegal in some places, and that gives you a little more power to work out a deal. You need to learn what is and what isn't allowed. So to do that, you'll have to call your state attorney general's office or the State Consumer Protection Office. I've mentioned them a couple of times and also in the very beginning. Okay? While most debt collectors abide by the law, you must prepare yourself if you are confronted by a debt collector who ignores the law and is bent on causing you grief. And again, this has happened. There have been many cases where debt collectors have called threatening, cursing, and, intimidating the clients. So this is the reason why we do these webinars, okay? So if this does happen and a third-party collection agency violates your rights, you can sue, again, for actual damages and punitive damages, as well as attorney's fees and court costs. Now, please remember that we do these webinars to educate you. They always say that knowledge is power, so it is very important that you know your rights. if you were on the previous webinars, because I believe this is part 4. This is part 3 of a 3-part series. You would have the notes from the previous 2 webinars that include all of your rights when it comes to credit, debt, the debt collectors, etc. You would have those in the notes. So we do this to educate you. Knowledge is power, and as I've stated before, not all debt collectors break the rules. But for those that do, they're hoping that you don't know your rights. So again, you want to make sure you get everything in writing. You want to make sure that you know what it is you need and you know your rights concerning all of these acts. Okay? So be informed, educate yourself, contact your state attorney general's office to find out your statute of limitations, to find out what it is, how long they have to either sue you for damages. And if they've passed that and they're still harassing you, maybe you can turn around and sue them for harassment. But remember, always get everything in writing, paper trail for everything when it comes to dealing with debt collectors. Everything is certified return receipt when you mail it, and write down all the calls. Note the times that they are calling you. Okay, it's between the hours of 8 and 9 local time. And if they do call you later than 9 o'clock, make note of that. If they call you before 8 o'clock, make note of that. Okay, if they discuss any type of information with anyone other than you, again, your spouse or your attorney, they are violating the law. And it's been known to happen. They try to tarnish your name, so to speak. So these are the things that you don't want to happen. This is why it is super important to educate yourself and to attend these webinars so that you know what it is that's going on and you know your rights and the laws behind it. Okay? So hopefully you found this information to be very informative. Today's webinar is a short one. I'm going to open it up to questions now. If there are any questions that you may have, if there's anything that you would like to ask, please feel free. Now is the time to do it. If you missed something and you want me to repeat myself, I will do that as well. Do we have any questions? Is there any information that someone else would like to know? Maybe perhaps I didn't cover something that they were hoping to hear. It's super quiet. Okay. Well, if there are no questions, no comments, no statements, someone's raising their hand. If you have a question, feel free to type it into the question box and I'll see it. I see that you raised your hand, but you didn't say anything. Oh, there we go. How do you get a copy of the other presentations that you've missed? That's a very good question. I believe the number at the end that I will provide for the coaching session with coffee, or if you email, the credit union. Oh, it's available through the email that, oh, that's right. It is available through the email that you all received for those who attended and those who didn't attend. We have them sent to you once you've registered for the webinar. So if you've ever registered for the webinar and missed it, you would get an email regarding that. If for some reason you did not register and you did not get an email, we'll just have you call the number that I'll put up on the screen afterwards. Another question is, if someone wants to talk further one-on-one, would they come to the branch? Depending on what it is you want to talk about. If you're talking about the 60-minute coaching session, you would have had to attend 3 of these webinars to start the coaching session, but that would be over the phone. If you had specific branch questions or something that you wanted to do at the credit union, then you would go in and speak to a banker there. And will the credit union contact us for the free session once we have participated? No, I'm going to put up the 866 number to call once you've done your 3. The last presentation when printed was off-centered. I would like to be able to print off a better copy for my records and follow up. Okay, the last month's webinar, is that what you're talking about? That it didn't print properly? Okay. If you can please send me your email, just put it in the question bar, and I will forward you another copy of the presentation, not the presentation, sorry, the notes. And thank you. Give me 1 second. Let me get that information. And I will send you a copy of the notes from last month's webinar. And hopefully it prints better for you this time. Are there any other questions that I could go over with you guys right now? All right. Well, I hope I answered everyone's questions. Are there any more? Okay, so please remember that the handouts and the notes are in your menu bar on the right-hand side of the screen. Okay, so that way you could download them. Hopefully it prints properly and you don't, you know, you didn't need to write anything down. Hopefully it prints properly and you guys could get it from there. With all of that being said, I would like to thank you for attending today's educational webinar. To learn more about Prince George's Community Federal Credit Union or to speak to a member service representative, please visit www.princegeorgescfcu.org. It's on the screen, or call 800-952-7428 or 301-627-2666. And to schedule your free 60-minute financial coaching you can contact Coffee at 866-459-5165. I believe I have one more question. Oh, nope, not a question. It's a thank you. You're very welcome. I hope that you found the webinar to be informative. And I see someone else didn't get a copy of the notes properly from last time, so we'll be sending those out to you in order for you to print them properly. If there are no other questions, I'll be ending today's session. Again, hopefully you found it to be informative, and thank you all again for attending.